Excerpt from Ajatasattu Kaukritya Vinodana Sutra, or the Dispelling of Ajatasatru's Remorse. The Buddha is on Mount Gurdrakuta near Rajagraha with a massive assembly of monks, bodhisattvas, and other mythical beings of various types. The manifold subtleties of the Dharma and the arduous requirements of the bodhisattva path are being expounded. This thought occurred to 200 deities from that assembly who had previously practiced but had lost the aspiration to awakening. If the dharmas, teachings or qualities, of a Buddha are so limitless, if the course of training of a bodhisattva is so very hard to follow, and if supreme and perfect awakening is that difficult to realize, then we cannot follow this training. So let us achieve parinirvana, final liberation, by means of the way of the Shravakas or the way of the Pratyeka Buddhas. Thereupon the Lord, reading the minds of those gods, and thinking, oh, these gods are destined to awaken to supreme and perfect awakening, for the purpose of guiding those gods, conjured up a householder outside that assembly, a householder who was holding in his right hand a bowl filled with food, which had 100 different flavors. Then that householder came to the Lord, prostrated himself at the Lord's feet, and presented the bowl of food to the Lord, saying, "May the Lord deign to receive this food out of compassion for me," at which the Lord accepted the bowl full of food. Thereupon Prince Mañjuśrī rose from his seat, arranged his outer robe on one shoulder, placed his palms together, and said to the Lord, "If the Lord does not deign to give me some of this food, the Lord will be guilty of ingratitude." Then the venerable Shariputra thought to himself, "Oh, in what way was Prince Mañjuśrī formerly of service to the Lord that he should now accuse the Lord of ingratitude?" Then the Lord, reading the venerable Shariputra's mind, said to the venerable Shariputra, "Shariputra, as a Tathagata, I know the right time, so wait and I shall tell you." Thereupon the Lord threw the bowl to the ground, and as soon as he had done so, that bowl passed before the eyes of those perfectly awakened ones in all the Buddha fields down below in which Buddhas and lords lived, dwelt, and resided. Then, after passing through as many Buddha fields down below as there are grains of sand in the river Ganges, that bowl came to rest, hovering unsupported in mid-air, in the world system called Avabhasa, in the Buddha field occupied by the realized, worthy, and perfectly awakened one, named Rashmiraja. Those who were in personal attendance on those Buddhas and lords asked, "Lord, where has this bowl come from?" To which those Buddhas and lords replied, "It has come from a world system up above known as Saha, from the presence of the Lord, the realized, worthy, and perfectly awakened one, Shakyamuni, and it has been thrown in order to guide other bodhisattvas." Thereupon the Lord said to the venerable Shariputra, "Shariputra, fetch that bowl, and find out where and in what place it is." Then the venerable Shariputra entered 10,000 samadhis, or meditative trances, and passed through 10,000 Buddha fields by means of the power of his own wisdom and the power of the Buddha, but still failed to see the whereabouts or location of that bowl, after which he sat down once again in the presence of the Lord. Having sat down, he said to the Lord, "Lord, I did not see the whereabouts or location of that bowl." Then the Lord said to the venerable Maudgalyayana, "Maudgalyayana, you look for the bowl." Then the venerable Maudgalyayana, after entering 10,000 samadhis, passed through 10,000 Buddha fields down below by means of the power of the Buddha and the power of his own magic, but still failed to see the whereabouts or location of that bowl, after which he sat down once again in the presence of the Lord. Having sat down, he said to the Lord, "Lord, I did not see the whereabouts or location of that bowl." Thereupon the Lord said to the venerable Subhuti, "Subhuti, you look for that bowl." Then the Venerable Subhuti, after entering 12,000 samadhis, went through 12,000 Buddha fields down below by means of the power of the Buddha and the power of his own magic, but still failed to see that bowl, after which he had sat down once again in the presence of the Lord. Having sat down, he said to the Lord, "Lord, I did not see the whereabouts or location of that bowl." In that way, 500 great Shravakas failed to find that bowl, even though they looked for it using their particular magical powers and their divine wisdom. Thereupon the Venerable Subhuti said to the Bodhisattva Maitreya, "Maitreya, the Lord has declared you to be one rebirth away from supreme and perfect awakening, so you find out where and in what place that bowl is." The Bodhisattva and Mahasattva Maitreya said to the Venerable Subhuti, "Reverend Subhuti, although the Tathagata has declared me to be one rebirth away from supreme and perfect awakening, I do not know even the names of the samadhis which Prince Mañjuśrī can sink into and rise out of. Yet, Reverend Subhuti, when I attain awakening, the time will come when bodhisattvas and mahasattvas of the likes of Prince Mañjuśrī will wonder, how does the Tathagata lift up his foot, and how does he place it down, and will not even comprehend how he takes a single step. Therefore, Reverend Subhuti, ask Mañjuśrī himself. He is able to find and fetch the bowl." Thereupon the elder Subhuti said to the Lord, "Lord, please command Prince Mañjuśrī to fetch that bowl and present it before the Lord." Then the Lord said to Prince Mañjuśrī, "Mañjuśrī, fetch that bowl, and find out where and in what place it is." Then Prince Mañjuśrī thought to himself, "Let me produce that bowl without getting up from my seat and without disappearing from this assembly." Thereupon Prince Mañjuśrī became absorbed in the samadhi called all-pervasive, and reached down with his right hand into the earth. Then the hand of Prince Mañjuśrī saluted as it went those Buddhas and Lords in all those Buddha fields in which Buddhas and Lords had appeared. And from that hand a voice was heard which said to the Lords, "The Lord, the realized, worthy, and perfectly awakened one, Shakyamuni, hopes that you are keeping well, in good health, in good shape physically, getting along all right, feeling strong and in good spirits." Then 100,000 million rays of light blazed forth from each and every hair pore of the arm. 100,000 lotus flowers sprang forth from each and every ray of light, and the forms of Tathagatas appeared sitting in the heart of each lotus. And all those Tathagatas were singing the praises of the Lord and Tathagata Shakyamuni. All the Buddha fields through which the hand passed also quaked in 6 different ways. All those Buddha fields were also filled with a great radiance. All those Buddha fields also became adorned with parasols, flags, and banners. Then the right hand of Prince Mañjuśrī, after passing through all those Buddha fields, equivalent in number to the grains of sand in 72 Ganges rivers, and after making obeisance to the feet of all those Buddhas and Lords and asking after their health, arrived in the world system of Abhasa, the Buddha field of that Lord and Tathagata, Rashmiraja. Then, when it had made obeisance to the feet of that Lord and Tathagata, Rashmiraja, it uttered the words, "The Lord, the realized, worthy, and perfectly awakened one, Shakyamuni, hopes that you are doing well, in good health, in good shape physically, getting along all right, feeling strong and in good spirits." From that hand 100,000 rays of light blazed forth, and 100,000 lotus flowers also sprang up. But those rays of light did not clash with the Tathagatas, i.e. Rashmiraja's, rays of light. Thereupon a bodhisattva and mahasattva by the name of Prabhashri, who was in attendance upon the Tathagata Rashmiraja, said to that Tathagata, "Lord, this arm from which these 100,000 rays of light are being emitted, from which 100,000 lotus flowers have also sprung forth, on all of which the forms of Tathagatas are sitting and singing praises of the Lord Shakyamuni, this arm, which is so beautiful to look at, and which causes so much joy, to whom does it belong?" When this was said, the Lord replied to the Bodhisattva Prabhashri, "Prabhashri, If you should pass through as many Buddha fields up above this Buddha field as there are grains of sand in 72 Ganges rivers, you will find the world system known as Saha, in which the realized, worthy, and perfectly awakened one, called Shakyamuni, lives, dwells, and resides. There is a bodhisattva and mahasattva by the name of Mañjuśrī, who is armed with the inconceivable armor, and who has acquired all the supernormal faculties, powers, and perfections. That Mañjuśrī has sent down this hand, without rising from his seat, for the purpose of getting this bowl. Then those bodhisattvas from that Buddha field of the Tathagata Rashmiraja became very curious and said, "Lord, we would like to see that world system Saha, that Tathagata Shakyamuni, and that Prince Mañjuśrī." Then the Tathagata Rashmiraja emitted a light from the circle of hair between his eyebrows, and that light penetrated all those Buddha fields equal in number to the grains of sand in 72 Ganges rivers, so that all the world systems there were filled with a great radiance. All the sentient beings whose bodies that light touched became possessed of the happiness of a universal monarch. All the practitioners of yoga whose bodies that light touched obtained the fruit of their respective practices. All those in training whose bodies that light touched became arhats, absorbed in meditation on the 8 stages of liberation. All the bodhisattvas whose bodies that light touched attained the samadhi called sun-like lamp. And so it was that the bodhisattvas from the Buddha field of that Tathagata Rashmiraja came to see this world system Saha, the Lord Shakyamuni, Prince Mañjuśrī, and the entire assembly of Shravakas. Thereupon the bodhisattva and mahasattva Prabhashri, seeing this world system Saha, wept and shed tears, saying, "Lord, just like priceless beryl gemstones thrown in the mud, Lord, so are those bodhisattvas and mahasattvas who are reborn in the world system Saha to be regarded." The Tathagata Rashmiraja said, "Son of good family, do not say that. Why? Because if someone were to generate thoughts of friendliness towards all beings for a single morning in the world system Saha, their merit would increase much more than that of someone who continued to practice dhyana for 10 eons in this world system. Why is that? Because, son of good family, those bodhisattvas and mahasattvas who uphold the true dharma in the Saha world system are purified of all karmic hindrances and defilements." Thereupon all the bodhisattvas in this world system Saha, whom that light had touched, said to the Lord, "Lord, whose is this light which is so delightful and pleasurable and which removes all the defilements?" When this was said, the Lord said to those bodhisattvas, "Son of good family, if one passes from here in the direction of the nadir through as many Buddha fields as there are grains of sand in 72 Ganges rivers, there is a world system called Avabhasa, in which a realized, worthy, and perfectly awakened one, known as the Rashmiraja, presently lives, dwells, and resides, and that Tathagata has emitted light from the circle of hair between his eyebrows, and that light has illuminated this world system Saha." Then those bodhisattvas said to the Lord, "We would like to see that world system of Abhasa and that Tathagata Rashmiraja." Thereupon the Lord and Tathagata Shakyamuni sent downwards from the soles of his 2 feet, which were marked with 1,000-spoked wheels, such a ray of light as to pass through and penetrate all those Buddha fields equal in number to the grains of sand in 72 Ganges rivers, and fill with light the whole of that world system of Abhasa, after which all the bodhisattvas whose bodies that ray of light touched obtained the samadhi known as Sumeru-like lamp. That Buddha field also became visible from this Buddha field, and this Buddha field also became visible from that Buddha field. Just as, for example, the sun and the moon are visible from here in Jambudvipa, so too those bodhisattvas saw the Tathagata Shakyamuni, and these bodhisattvas saw that Lord and Tathagata Rashmiraja. Just as, for example, the gods living on the summit of Sumeru look down on Jambudvipa, so too the bodhisattvas saw from this world system the Lord and Tathagata Rashmiraja and those bodhisattvas and mahasattvas armed with the great armor. Thereupon, having grasped the bowl, the right hand of Prince Mañjuśrī was raised aloft, preceded and accompanied by many 100,000 millions of billions of bodhisattvas, through the upper atmosphere and out of the world system of Abhasa, the Buddha field of the Tathagata Rashmiraja. As that hand passed upwards in each and every Buddha field, the rays of light disappeared, and the lotus flowers also disappeared from view. And so it was that the right hand of Prince Mañjuśrī, holding the bowl, arrived in this world system Saha. And after he had thrown the bowl into the air before the Lord Shakyamuni, Prince Mañjuśrī prostrated himself at the Lord's feet, and said to the Lord, "Lord, here is the bowl which I have fetched, so will the Tathagata please accept it?" And the Lord accepted the bowl. Thereupon the bodhisattvas who had arrived in this world system Saha, along with Prince Mañjuśrī's arm, prostrated themselves at the Lord's feet, announced the names of their respective Tathagatas, said, "Lord, the Tathagata so-and-so hopes that you are keeping well, in good health, in good shape physically, getting along all right, feeling strong and in good spirits," and then sat down on their respective seats at the behest of the Buddha. Then the Lord said to the venerable Shariputra, "Therefore, Shariputra, listen, and I shall tell you what service Prince Mañjuśrī once rendered me that he should have charged me with ingratitude. Once, long ago, Shariputra, in an age and at a time incalculable 100,000 millions of billions of eons ago, and even more besides, a realized, worthy, and perfectly awakened one, by the name of Aparajita Java, rose in the world, and in the world system called Anindya. Shariputra, that Tathagata's assembly of Shravakas numbered 84,000, and his bodhisattvas numbered 12,000. And that Tathagata taught the Dharma concerning the three vehicles, the Shravaka, Pratyeka Buddha, and Bodhisattva paths, having been born to expound the three vehicles and to expound the six perfections, giving, ethics, patience, effort, concentration, and wisdom, and the creative use of stratagems. Therefore, Shariputra, at that time and on that occasion, a certain monk and preacher of Dharma, by the name of Jnana Raja, appeared, who after donning his inner robe and taking up his outer robe and bowl, went into the royal capital called Vistarika, in order to beg for alms food, after which he came out with much food, having 100 flavors. Furthermore, on that occasion, a merchant's son by the name of Vimalabahu was sitting in his wet nurse's lap, and that child saw that monk coming from afar. Seeing him, he jumped down from his nurse's lap, ran to that monk, and begged him for food, at which the monk gave him a sweet. Excited by that food, he followed the monk until he eventually came to the place where the Tathagata, Aparajita was, and having arrived there, he prostrated himself at the feet of the Tathagata and sat down in his presence. Then the monk Jnana Raja gave what alms food he had received to the child, and said, "Boy, give this alms food to the Tathagata." Then the child took the alms food and filled the bowl of that lord with it, and yet that alms food was still not used up. And so it was, Shariputra, that from that one portion of alms food that child fed and provided for those 84,000 Shravakas, those 12,000 bodhisattvas, and that lord and Tathagata, Aparajita, and yet that alms food did not run out. Then that child, delighted, overjoyed, feeling joy and exultation, sat down in the presence of the Lord and uttered these verses. "Those who are fitting recipients of gifts and fields of merit have been worshipped by me, with a bowl which never ran out, even after feeding the assembly of monks. Because the cooked rice did not run out, even after feeding the Lord of the world, there can be no doubt that a gift is inexhaustible if it is given to the Buddha. Just as the cooked rice does not get used up, but increases still more, so too shall the merit increase of those who honor the Buddhas." And so it was, Shariputra, that this child fed the Tathagata and his assembly of monks for 7 days with that single portion of alms food. Yet by virtue of the power of the Buddha and the faith in that child's heart, that food did not run out. Then the monk Jnana Raja induced that child to take refuge in the Buddha, to take refuge in the Dharma, and to take refuge in the Sangha. He imparted the precepts to him and had him confess his faults, had him make an act of rejoicing at that which was to be rejoiced over, had him make a request for those things one should request, and finally had him conceive the aspiration for supreme and perfect awakening. So it was, Shariputra, that the child's father and mother came to the Tathagata Aparajita Drava, looking for the child, and when they arrived, they prostrated themselves at the Lord's feet and sat down in his presence. Then the child prostrated himself at his parents' feet and uttered these verses. Since I have set out for awakening, for the happiness of all embodied beings, may you too abide in happiness. Favorable conditions for spiritual progress, they are truly rare. Behold the shining Buddha's body, adorned with its marks. Who would not aspire to that awakening, brought to perfection by cognition? The Tathagata is truly rare. In this very place I have gone forth, from the home into the homeless life. You too give me your approval. The parents said, Since we both love you, we vow to attain excellent awakening, and will imitate you, our son, in order to go forth into the religious life. And so it was, Shariputra, that the child, and that child's parents, and those 500 beings who conceived the aspiration for awakening all went forth into the religious life. Shariputra, if you should be doubtful, puzzled, or uncertain as to the identity of the monk and preacher of Dharma called Jnanaraja on that occasion, and at that time then, Shariputra, you should not be that way. Why is that? Because on that occasion, and at that time, Mañjuśrī here was the monk and preacher of Dharma called Jnanaraja. Shariputra, if you should be doubtful, puzzled, or uncertain as to the identity of the merchant's son called Vimalabahu on that occasion, and at that time, then, Shariputra, you should not be that way. Why is that? Because on that occasion, and at that time, I was the merchant's son called Vimalabahu, Shariputra. Prince Mañjuśrī caused me to conceive the aspiration for awakening after giving me the alms food, which was my first aspiration to awakening. And that is the way, Shariputra, in which this is to be known. One should see that the greatness of a Buddha, the 10 powers, the 4 types of assurance, the unhindered cognition, and anything else belonging to the Tathagata, have all come from the instigation of Prince Mañjuśrī. Why is that? Because omniscience has been attained on the basis of that moment of aspiration. Shariputra, I see in the 10 directions innumerable and incalculable Tathagatas who have been established in awakening by Prince Mañjuśrī, and who are called Shakyamuni just like me, as well as those who are called Tishya, Pushya, Shikin, and Dipamkara. And I could go on reciting for an eon or more than an eon the names of all those Tathagatas who, after being established in awakening by Prince Mañjuśrī, are now turning the wheel of the Dharma, and still not come to the end of them, to say nothing of those who are pursuing the course of a bodhisattva, residing in the Tushita realm, taking rebirth, going forth from the household life, practicing austerities, or sitting on the terrace of awakening. That is the way, Shariputra, in which this is to be known, that it is about Prince Mañjuśrī himself that they speak and teach, who rightly say and teach that he is the mother of the bodhisattvas, their father, the one who shows compassion to them, and their instigator. And that, Shariputra, is the reason and the cause why, on account of a former favor, Prince Mañjuśrī charged me with ingratitude. Thereupon the 200 gods thought to themselves, all things follow from causes, dependent upon conditions, have their roots in desires, and are determined by vows. If even the Lord here was instigated by another person, it is not fitting that we should aspire to what is inferior, while a Tathagata is right in front of us. Thereupon those 200 gods conceived wholeheartedly the aspiration for supreme and perfect awakening. When Prince Mañjuśrī displayed here the miracle by which he stretched out his hand and exhibited his magical powers, when the bowl was retrieved and the teaching related to previous events was given here, incalculable sentient beings from the Buddha fields down below, and from this one conceived the aspiration for awakening. Further, from countless Buddha fields in the 10 directions, the Buddhas and Lords sent jeweled parasols as offerings for Prince Mañjuśrī and as coverings for the Dharma, and those jeweled parasols filled this world system. And from those jeweled parasols came voices saying, "It is true, it is just as the Tathagata Shakyamuni has said, we too were all established in awakening by Prince Mañjuśrī."